over in 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Beautiful. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. That I made sure to wait. I waited. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of the Push Start Podcast. We don't keep track of what episode it is here on this show because who really cares? It doesn't matter. It's a journey with all of you. And that's the most important thing, is that we get to spend it. Whether it's episode 100 or it's episode 1. If you really care that much, you do the work and go back and count, because I'm lazy as hell and I don't really care. So, with that said, we are here with someone who does really care and puts 100% into absolutely everything. The illustrious That Blue Number. Hello. Happy Thursday.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hi, chat.
How is everybody? Jeremy, I was just kidding. I was just teasing you. It's fair.
We had to.
So if you remember last week, it was a little long, but that's because Discord is Discord, and Discord is Discord. So we had to switch back, and so we're good now.
Now everything's...
We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your patience.
We were almost on time, but I had a work event this week, which I couldn't control. Yes. I had a work-related thing, Echo.
I'm coming out of 2 speakers. La 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 la.
It's fixed now.
Just for your credit.
It is corrected now. I had a work-related thing I had to do, so I got back a little bit late. But we're here now to celebrate some exciting gaming. I didn't want to do news this week. There wasn't too much going on. I could give the Spark Notes version of it really quick, honestly. Mafia the Old Country released, which I do want to get your thoughts because I know that you've been playing it, and I'm curious. I haven't, but I know you have, and I want to hear all about what you have to say about. That's a good teaser. We'll get into that in just a bit. Really quickly, new poster for Fallout Season 2. That's exciting. New promo image. Everyone's really excited about it. I see a lot of people freaking out. They're like, oh my god! I am too, because Fallout Season 1 was great. But I just can't get that excited over a single teaser image of people walking away. We already knew that Fallout New Vegas was going to be a part of it. Maybe I'm just not a big enough Fallout fan. I like Fallout, but if it was an Elder Scrolls... you know what? If it was Elder Scrolls... and Elder Scrolls Season 1 of whatever was really, really good, I'd probably be doing the same thing. So, there you go. But I'm excited for Fallout fans and Influence Hype 2. Welcome, Influence. Welcome, Jeremy. Welcome, Arcane. Thank you all for being here. You're hyped. I'm excited. It looks cool. I'm excited. You know what I found peculiar, though, about it? 2 things I found peculiar about that. One is that they're walking away from New Vegas, which I know is because they wanted to show off New Vegas and the sign, and they want them cool walking and you see their faces of the characters. So I get why. But I also just, my brain goes, they should be walking to New Vegas, not away from it. They should be leaving.
Yeah, and I feel like there's lots and lots of times where we see the back ends of people, right? Because it's just to show, like, yeah, you recognize that these are the characters that you know from their silhouettes, but it's more about where they're going, right? That happens a lot. People do that a lot in trailers and stuff like that. I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Or
Yeah,
they could have been facing that way and kind of looking over their shoulder, or even at each other or something like that, right? Where you still get their face, but then you get the city.
They could have done both.
Ish.
It's the type of thing that my brain, I look at and I go, huh, even though I don't really care that much, but I just go, interesting.
But you don't actually like Fallout that much, do you?
I like Fallout. Well, I like Elder Scrolls significantly more. Fallout, I just get bored of, I think, because it is so bleak. And so, like, Fallout 4, I actually liked... I liked Fallout 3 and New Vegas better. But Fallout 4 I actually liked because it was kind of a bit more vibrant and it was more hopeful and about rebuilding. There's definitely a lot more color to it. But, I don't know, I think because everything's just dead and decaying and it's like, what's in this room? Oh, a skeleton? Alright, cool. What's in this room? Oh, a skeleton? Okay, what's in this room? Oh, destroyed building? Okay. And I know there's more to Fallout than just that. Like, I completely, because I like Fallout. But I'm just, if I am hyperbolizing for the sake of being on camera, I would say that overall I think it's much more boring. But that's because I'm a fantasy simp. And I just like my spells and swords and goblins and my dragons. And, you know, if I wasn't wearing this,
We're the opposite.
I'd be wearing my D&D shirt. We're the opposite.
Nah,
But that's okay.
I'm a much more of a Fallout fan. Doesn't mean I don't like Elder Scrolls, but I'm much more of a Fallout fan. Because it's like, okay, we know ghouls aren't really a thing. You know, like if the world were to really become, right? Like
You're dead
there's
or you're
always
not.
well, yes. It's always that sort of like mysticism behind like when any dystopian future thing is like, well, that could happen, right? And and you know, it's interesting because since we went through COVID, which is not at all a dystopian future thing, but it is the most dystopian thing probably any of us will see in our lifetimes, hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Like that was a very rare random scenario that like none of us ever saw coming in our lifetime. And what was the first thing to go? Toilet paper. You know? So like I guess that's the interesting thing about Fallout is that like, well, something could happen and what happens to humanity at that point. And I think that's what I like because like I'm also one of those people who gets very oddly fascinated with like the TV show Hoarders or My 600-Pound Life, right? Like they're very reality based, but they're more about the psychological condition of humans when stuff breaks totally down, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I like. I guess that's what I like about it. And there's a lot in Fallout that's kind of that, right?
Yeah,
okay, we're here. Now what happens, right?
Yeah. And I like when they lean into that aspect more because, and this is a problem that Bethesda's been having. I'm not going on this rabbit hole tangent, but where, especially with Starfield, it came to light, or a lot of people just sort of looking retrospectively back at their past games too. But especially in light of Starfield, they're like, it's just too clean. Like, this is, and even Fallout 4, right? Fallout 4 is meant to be more hopeful and more colorful, but it sort of takes away from, this is an apocalypse. Like, humans are terrible to each other. Mutants are terrible to humans. The world is terrible to humans. It's it's just horrible. And you have like these little glimpses of niceties in there. You see something like Megaton. These people are living, and like that's a good civilization. But they're living around it, like, even the good things are bad. They're living around a giant atomic bomb that didn't go, like, and I like that part of Fallout. And I would like for them to lean more into the human condition side of it, because I think when they talk about not so much like, hey man, isn't it fun to shoot this giant mini nuke launcher in the wasteland? Ha ha ha, kill the Deathclaw. Which is kind of the vibe I got a bit from Fallout 4. Like, look how cool you are in your power armor, and you are cool in your power armor. But Fallout should
are cool in your power armor.
You're very cool, but Fallout should be scary.
Well, it is because we're past the bombs, right? Like, you're past the bombs, so there's not nuclear, like, beyond residuals, right? Like, there's not nuclear scare. It's about people and how they adapt and how they become pretty animalistic, right? Which absolutely will happen. But I feel like I'm wondering, as long as the show is good, right? The show is very much based around the human condition more than it is the world of Fallout. I feel, at least the first season was. So I feel like you would actually probably enjoy the show more than you do the game. I loved, there's the reason why I'm excited for Fallout as a TV show, and why I think, and it's, people get into the conversation like, oh, is Todd Howard past his prime? Is he done? But the reason why I still stand behind him as a creative is because he was smart enough to say, we're not going to retell Fallout 1 or Fallout 2. And there were elements of that. They need to find the water chip or whatever, you know, like find the Eden that can help the waste. So there's parts of that overlap. But the thing I liked is it told its own story that exists kind of, aside, they're tying it into New Vegas, but up until that point, it kind of existed independently.
And I love that very much, especially the elements that focus on my two favorite characters are the ghoul, because that's a very tangible thing, right? That's very gritty. That touches on that human condition. Like, this is a person who had everything, seemingly, or had what he needed, and now it was taken. And I like to see him as a character the most, but also the vault stuff, because that's sort of, and it goes into the, you know, the political, like, here's this megacorp that's doing whatever stuff, but that also kind of speaks a little bit more towards something that feels tangible. And I like those parts of Fallout, but interestingly, the thing that attracts me about Elder Scrolls is because that is so much more of a form of escapism, that you are in this mystical, whimsical land of, and I wish Elder Scrolls was more serious too, but you're in this magical land where you are casting spells and you're joining this group of wizards that are, or this group of assassins that are, all of the tropes, because Elder Scrolls is based on classic D&D. So all of those tropes, when they get pulled into an Elder Scrolls game, I go, yes, like, make it tropey. I love that stuff. Like, have your typical magic guild and your fighting guild and your assassins and do all that. So I like the escapism, the fantasy part.
I also, I think I like combat in Fallout better than I do in
That's
Elder
very
Scrolls.
fair. That's very fair.
And I think, you know, I think it's because Elder Scrolls feels like an older style combat. It's a little awkward, you know. Right. Yes. Yes. And I like VATs. You know, it's really cool because, like, so few games actually have a VAT system, right? Like, it's just a thing, right? And it's really cool. It's unique. And then Fallout has hundreds of weird, quirky, cool weapons. Hey, Monad. It has tons of cool, weird weapons, right? You get to mod them and do all these cool things to them, too. So I think, for me, that's more fun. Although I do very much enjoy Skyrim, and, you know, like, it's fun. It's just when it comes to combat, I think Fallout takes the win.
I would agree with that, actually. Even as a more of an Elder Scrolls fan, I think the combat in Fallout is better. So super excited for the new season of the TV show. Also, what's coming back, it's playable right now, is Battlefield 4 or more beta. Battlefield 6, sorry, more beta is available. You can play it, and it's same thing. And it's open, so everybody, if you didn't have access before, you have access now. You don't need to do anything to get it. You just download the beta through Steam or Epic or EA or wherever you want to play it, or on your console. They added Rush into this, and they also added, I think it was 3 new maps. There's one in Manhattan, and there's 2 others. I don't know. The 2 were, I think they were medium-sized, and then maybe 1 larger map. Does that... Okay. You were mixed on Battlefield, so just very quickly, I enjoyed it. I'm going to hop back in for sure. You were mixed on Battlefield. You're more of a Call of Duty player, which is fine, but do you have any interest in returning because they added the new mode and some new maps, or are you like, I'll take it or leave it?
So I almost deleted it at the end of last weekend because I was like, I didn't really enjoy this, right? I mean, it's not terrible. It's just I got fatigued with it earlier. Like, I'm just like, ooh, I just got fatigued with this so quickly that, like, I don't have any interest to come back to it. But I did not, because I thought, well, a different weekend usually brings different modes and different maps. So I waited, and I will jump back in and see. Because you always talk about Rush, so I'm like, Rush, okay, I'll give Rush a fair chance. Yeah. So yeah, I would play some more Battlefield.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah,
I want to give it a fair chance.
And the last thing I want, and I'm gonna just completely sit back and relax and kick my feet up, is to ask you, Mafia. How is it?
Yeah.
That reaction is not inspiring.
It got great.
Good reviews.
It got okay reviews.
It got
it's low
positive.
70s.
Yeah. Which I think most people expected when it was coming out as a $40 $50.
4, but I don't remember. I got it for $40. I got the deluxe edition for $40 off Green Man Gaming. So, you know, so here's the thing. I've never
50.
played Mafia before. Okay. Well, then I got a heck of a deal, huh? I've never played Mafia before. Full disclosure, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I have no idea if and I own all 3 of the others. I just haven't got to them yet.
I know, me too.
So I have no idea ooh, do you? I have no idea if Old Country plays the same as the other ones. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe chat could tell me if they've played it. But my biggest complaint is actually just the fact that I'm playing on PC, and after the first,
with or without a controller.
With a controller. I don't play anything without a controller unless I'm forced to.
Oh, sorry.
I can't.
My bad.
Yes. No, it's a me problem. So the first night I only had like an hour or 2 and I played the intro and it was fine. And I was looking for, because it's kind of buried in there, like how to actually quit the game. And I was looking through the menu trying to find the quit and it crashed. And I was like, that's fine. I was trying to close the game anyway. No big deal. Right. Mm-hmm. And then every other time I've played, and there's 14 chapters and I'm in chapter 6, I think 6 or 7. So I'm about halfway. Yeah. Every other time I've played, I think I've put 7 hours into the game, maybe, and it has crashed about 100 times more than hours I've played.
Oh my god.
It is insanely badly optimized and all of the things, and I'm playing with all the epic settings on. I was told by somebody else, if you dumb down the settings, it won't crash quite as often.
That's not what you want to hear.
Still crashes. No, and I'm like, my PC can play it on these settings, and it's not a settings issue; it's a game issue. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people saying that the PC version is atrocious as far as, you know, technical issues, and also the other thing is, as I'm waiting to see if it's gonna crash again, sometimes. One of the cool things it does as a game is that when you're playing and you like come up to an area and there's a cutscene, the progression from you like moving forward to walk into an area to it just taking over as a cutscene is so seamless you don't even realize. I love that moving.
Oh yeah, my god,
that's really cool.
I've been playing a lot of Avatar recently. And I really like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. But the thing that drives me absolutely wild, it just bonk every single time in that game, is whenever you get into a cutscene or like a dialogue with it will fade to black, then go into the scene, then the whole scene happens and it fades to black and you're back and like the NPC that you were talking to is gone or like in a different spot or whatever. Yeah. And it's you have this beautifully immersive game. Incredible. And now they do that because they get higher production quality, right? There's always the thing of like in scene versus out of scene, and like the NPCs talk like this when they're not in a proper scene, and you're just like, why can't you just get it? So sure, you have higher production value, but you have this beautifully immersive game, and you don't ruin it, but you completely take everything out when you gotta stop like that. So I like to hear that.
Like a reset in your brain, right?
Oh my gosh! Like I'd be like. Helped because obviously we saw the trailer footage for GTA 6 and how it just rolls right from gameplay to, and GTA 5 did that too though, but
it's incredible, and Jeremy says it's always done that, so great. But it is one thing that I did notice, like, oh, this is good, like, because it is, I feel like it's a little rare when games just have that. Like I would be like riding a horse and I would come up to an area and I'm like, okay, is it gonna prompt me like to like slow down, tie off the horse, get off, you know, the whole thing. And I'm riding up and then I'm like, okay, waiting for it. And I let go of like the thumbstick to keep moving. And it's already been in the cutscene and I just didn't even realize it, right? Like it just goes and like,
I love
it's
that.
Cool.
You remember
it's really cool.
Remember when Skyrim did that? in their demo. Do you remember the 2010 demo for Skyrim?
I don't remember.
All right, the Game Awards, they showed off Skyrim for the first time. They had one of the best gaming demos, I think, of any game ever, where it was like, I think it was it was like an hour of footage or something, or at least minimum 30 minutes. But they showed off 3 distinct sections of the game, and it was such a whopping big deal that Todd Howard or someone was playing the game. I think Todd Howard was just speaking to it, but they're playing the game and they walk up to an NPC and they get into dialogue, and the entire world keeps moving. Like, it was Alvor working on the grindstone. I remember that demo. I watched it like 1,000 times. He's working on the grindstone, and they make it a point to call out, like, and everything is still moving in real time. You just seamlessly go into the dialogue. He's still working. The water's still going on behind him. Obviously, for Elder Scrolls, that was a big deal, because Oblivion, you went,
Well,
yes.
and at that time, right? Any game to do that was probably
It was 2011 to
deal,
have it that
right?
seamless.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, it's good. But unfortunately, the other side of that is that, and it also will kind of, it's not quite as smooth panning out of a cutscene into back to you taking control, but it's not bad. But I noticed the longer I played, the more often I would get severe stutters in those transitions, because the game just was like, I was trying to crash and it hadn't quite crashed, and it managed to break through whatever mystery wall problem it was having. But when it works, it's fantastic. Like it, and it's beautiful. But again, I found it really boring. I found the whole thing very boring.
Oh, story did not capture you.
Not a lot, no. And I'm like, I was in like chapter 4, and I'm like, is the story gonna start yet? Because you're still doing tutorial stuff. And I'm like, there's only like 10 chapters left, right? There has to be a story build up and a climax and then a crescendo at the end. And there's only like 10 chapters. I just don't quite know where it's. Even now, I'm like, okay, we've done a few things. There's this one like half story happening that's kind of an ancillary side thing, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. But where's this going?
Yeah.
What are we? Anyway,
okay.
But it's really pretty. It's only $50, right? If you like Mafia, again, I don't know if all the others are like this, but it's very heavy on the cutscenes too. I feel like it's been 50-50 gameplay cutscenes, I feel, which is a lot, right? Yeah. For a game.
Well,
which
it's a lot.
Sort of okay with.
It's a lot, and I don't mind cutscenes. I know people are like, "Where's the game?" But I don't mind it. However, what I will say is that is a lot, especially considering they're doing all that cutscene, and you're saying the story's not really going anywhere. Like, if you're doing that many cutscenes, then you need to have
a story that's
going.
Rocking and rolling, right? Yeah.
Cray Monad says orange something covering Mount. I don't know what it comes up on as on the stream, but it was very funny to see it come up on the stream as that. Influent Mafia the Mid Country. Sounds like it based on how you're describing it. Good question here from Influent 2. What ending do y'all... This is going back to our Fallout talk. What ending do you think that they'll make canon for the TV show? I'm guessing Mr. House or NCR. I'm leaning towards Mr. House, not gonna lie. I think that they're going to go with the House ending just because he is... What I would love is actually to see Yes Man's ending as canon, because I think that's just infinitely more funny to see. However, the more interesting character, especially, you got to keep in mind, most people watching the show probably haven't played the game and possibly never will play the game. Though I think Mr. House overall is a lot more interesting of a character. If Yes Man isn't in it, though, I will be incredibly angry, and I will write Mr. Howard himself and Mr. Nolan a very sternly finger-wagging letter if they watched this show. I would love if there was like one Bethesda dev that's like, hey, DeMarco talks about Bethesda a lot. Let's tune in for him. And they were there and they were seeing that. That way I could be like, and if I knew that they were in the chat, and that way I could be like, you You go to Mr. Howard and you tell him I'm gonna wag a finger if Yes Man's not in it. But anyway.
The first finger that's ever been wagged at Mr. Howard.
First and hopefully the last. Probably not the last. Did you play through Fallout New Vegas?
I've played Fallout New Vegas. I'd never finished it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the endings, or you can't speak to the endings?
I can't. Okay. So I guess that's kind of a nice thing for me, because if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to go, then doesn't really affect me much.
I think the beautiful thing about it too is that it's sort of what I like about the Witcher games is that they like CD Projekt Red can the Fallout show is canonical. But I really liked about the Witcher games is that they said, hey, it's actually not canon to the books, so it does give them, and they're very loyal to the books, but they have just like they take what liberties they need to for the sake of the game and for storytelling and because it's an RPG. And I really appreciate, I kind of wish they did that with the show, so that way fans won't go completely berserk when they're like, you changed it, which they did already. We saw them do it with like the dates of the bombs drop or whatever. They're like, oh, well, technically this couldn't have happened because you put the date on the chalkboard. And it's like, just shut up. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it really
like
matter?
there's a few games that do. I mean, honestly, they have to stick to canon because the world itself is very limited. Like The Last of Us. At least the first season, you really have to stay to canon.
Which they did. They changed it.
The first season?
Yeah, they
did change certain things. They did change certain
the way
things.
that the infected you step on them and then they all suddenly know about it.
Yes, and then they changed the story about Bill.
There's no spores.
And then yes.
That's a huge one.
They did. But when you think about the game is actually a story about love, right? And the love, like a father-daughter love, right? Like, they accomplished it, right? In the first season. I think they did a pretty good job with the first season. But that story is so linear and so specific that if they had used Ellie and Joel in a show and not done that story, it would have been fire and brimstone for that show, right? But a world like Halo or Fallout or even probably The Witcher's a little more. I don't feel like it's quite as open, right? Or Skyrim, right? All of these, you could just say we're in the world of, and then just tell a story, and it's okay because the world is so large and all encompassing, and right? Mm. But you can't do a movie about Kratos and not have whatever the boy's name is,
Atreus,
right? You can't,
boy.
You can't have,
boy.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the ideal thing for any of these shows is for like a Last of Us situation. You're like, we're making a Last of Us show. You need to have a good first season that's like, here's Ellie and Joel, and then you say, well, now that we have all of you guys interested in The Last of Us, now we're, because of course, like you said, right, you jump into Skyrim or Fallout and it's your own character every single time, and it's a different character, and every game is a different character, but it's so story driven. So Last of Us would need to say, here's Ellie and Joel, but now that we have your attention, why don't you now you're into the world, and we're in TV world at that. So now we're going to do these characters that's still in the world of The Last of Us, but you need to establish that to get your core audience in first versus Fallout can just like plop you anywhere and make it. If they ever did an Elder Scrolls show, it needs to be animated. I've said that 1,000 times, but I look at the trailers for ESO and I go, just take that, just make that into a movie or a show, and I would lose my mind, because I always liked animation better personally than live action because you could do so much more with it. But animation is hopefully going to make a comeback. It's not been doing well for people who follow the animation industry at all. But we have Fallout Season 2, which is super exciting. We have Last of Us Season 3 that'll be coming out eventually. We have a lot of sequels. And you know what the funny thing about sequels is it's the title of this week's podcast and the main focus I wanted to get into today. And that is to say, you just said Mafia 3. You don't have a comparison point for the old Mafia games, so we can't really talk about that. I've never played Mafia myself, any of them, because I'm a bad Italian. They made, I think it was it Fark or was it, who was it? Someone, Gray Moon, who said it? Someone was like, they made him an offer and he refused. I like that comment. I saw that one. But I wanted to just get into the discussion of sequels in general, because they sort of, this topic came, just for a bit of context for you, Holly, and for chat. This topic came into my mind because I was thinking about, I wanted to make a video on Mass Effect 4. And Mass Effect 4, and just BioWare as a whole, is in a very scary position, I think we can agree, just because we saw how Dragon Age Veilguard came out, and we've seen how Anthem came out, and every single game for BioWare is its last game. This is their last game, otherwise EA is just going to close them. It's been that way for the past 4 games. They're still here, though, which is great. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how do you make a good sequel for Mass Effect? You have beloved characters, you're dealing with a sensitive topic. We talked a little bit about this on Red Show on Tuesday, but obviously taking the conversation in a much different direction. And it just got me thinking about the state of the industry. I've made my remarks where I've said multiple times that the industry is sort of doubling down on existing franchises and successful ones because it's too risky for these massive companies that are putting multiple tens of millions of dollar budgets into these games. So I was thinking, and it got me onto the path of like, what's a good sequel, what's a bad sequel? And there's such a wide range, and sometimes what works for one game doesn't work for another game. And so first off, I wanted to ask the question, which I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't prepare you with any questions. I've had time to think about
Lay it
that.
on me.
I'll answer first, but I'll give you some time to think about it. If that's fair? Okay. So the question being, what is, in your opinion, just a really good example of a sequel? Like what, some of the best, and it doesn't have to be like your top sequel of all time, but just really good examples of a sequel done right. And for me, there's a few. Skyrim comes to mind in some ways because I think it took a lot of what Oblivion did well. It did some things worse than Oblivion, but it did a lot better, and it just made the world a lot more interesting. So that's an example where you have just a complete, in my opinion, a complete evolution in some ways, because it's so many years between games that it just was able to expand on it in such a different way than I think what players maybe anticipated at the time. I also think to Batman Arkham City, which is why he's on the thumbnail. I think to Batman Arkham City, because that's an interesting one where they had such a award-winning formula with Arkham Asylum. It just worked in every single way. And they said, we're going to do that again, but better. And I remember thinking at the time, how do you do it better? You can't do it better. Asylum already did it the better. That is the better. And then City comes out, and you're like, holy crap, they did it better. And now they're talking about Arkham Knight, and you go, they nailed it with Arkham. They can't do it better. That was the better of the better. And then they made it better. In some way, not all, the Batmobile, like, there's problems with it. But like, the combat in Arkham City just felt so tight, and it felt so clean. And then they just tightened it up even more with Arkham. And that was an example where they just kept iterating in small ways that made huge, like, miles of difference. And then I feel like there's other games that do that too, like Greedfall, which is a smaller project, but Greedfall 1 versus Greedfall 2, and it didn't really work as well. So the question becomes, why does it work for something like Batman, where they don't change as much, versus something like Greedfall? Or I think to like Monster Hunter. I don't play Monster Hunter, so I can't speak to it. If Assassin or Red were here, they could example. Like, Monster Hunter is very similar, generally speaking, between games. They changed some stuff, I know, but
I don't think I've played like any of those games that you're using as examples, so it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I definitely know. My examples of sequels but better is, of course, Arcane will appreciate that. This is Dishonored 2.
good. Yeah, very good example.
I would actually argue I actually like Dishonored 1 just a little bit more, but I think it's just because it was the first and, exposure to a new IP that you like for a lot. But there's a lot of good reasons why people revered Dishonored 2 a little bit more than 1, right? And it's because they didn't F with the formula too much. They just expanded. They added some new ideas, stayed in the same world, used characters that were beloved, and continued a story down a path that made sense for the world. The Division 2 is a most excellent and better upgrade to Division. And one that you're not going to expect because, is Mario versus Rabbids, the second one.
Not that I wasn't expecting it, but I know that Mario versus Rabbids was a very good game that I have not had the luxury of playing.
My gosh.
Because I don't have a Switch.
So good. Those games, if you guys ever get a chance to play those games, they are just the best. Like, they're so good. And they're really hard too. Like, you think, oh, it's a Nintendo, it's a kids game. No, it's not at all. They're really difficult. And then of course I think Mass Effect 2 is infinitely better than Mass Effect 1.
I was gonna say Mass Effect 2. Someone actually, Greymon had said Mass Effect 4. Close, but not quite. Influence said Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor falls into that category where it follows the same formula well. But so Division and Dishonored are good examples, right? Because they tweaked, they iterated on the formula. But where, and it's an arbitrary line, right? And I don't think we're not going to be able to define it here. I wish I had the opportunity to speak to a developer on the show, because I would love to ask someone who's worked on games this question. But Jak 2, Influent, good example actually. Jak 2, did you play Jak and Dexter ever? No. Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 is another good example.
Uncharted is good. Yeah.
And I think Uncharted is a great example because it really falls into that line of how little can you change but still make the game better and still be considered a successful sequel.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
It's one of my favorite games of all time. That's like top 3. Okay, it's perfect. So, one of the other things that's interesting about all of these, and it's granted it's just development cycles and where we're at and gaming, etc., blah, 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 is one of the other things that's, I think, is really important for this conversation is the fact that those games were all made in a time where people made a game about a world and a character and a story they loved, and they focused on that, and they didn't bring in any outside influence, ideology, politics, any shenanigans. I don't care what it is, right? From the outside to try to prove a point or to add something in for whatever reason that doesn't fit naturally in the story. That's the thing, right? Like there are politics in BioShock. There are politics in Dishonored, right? Like there are politics in freaking Division, right? But they fit the story. They don't creep outside of the story. They're told in a way that are important and narrative to Last of Us 2 did not do it well. I know some people will argue, but they had messages and things that they wanted to say, fine, but it didn't fit in the story. It's just a more modern day example of a sequel that is either highly polarized, right? Like either you loved it or you hate it, but it's not a universally loved sequel, right? And then I would even say that, and I haven't played them, but God of War 2 and Spider-Man 2, nothing to do with like bringing in opinion pieces into your game, but they just didn't hit the same way the first one did, right? They
Yeah.
weren't quite the upgrade. They were okay. All right, it's a sequel. It wasn't terrible, but it doesn't really seem like people enjoyed them quite as much as they did the first one.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too, because I was thinking about Spider-Man 2 as well, because that's an example where you think, okay, it should have like on paper, it should have worked very much like the Arkham games, where they don't need to change too much, because Spider-Man 1 was fantastic. It felt polished, it felt clean. You could have definitely made some tweaks, like the mission and story structure. Just gotta pause real quick. Influence, saying that Red Dead 2 was boring, that's a timeoutable offense. So
Woo!
I got my eye on you.
Wrong.
Actually, I understand why someone would think it's boring. It's very slow. Bobby! Hello, Bobby. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. People wanted to make games about fantasy and life and things people would see in movies, but then developers started getting more personal matters to try to push it. Yeah, we know that's an issue. And the games have suffered. Thankfully, we're at kind of the pivot in that road, I think. We can probably agree that not every game, but most of them are saying, hey, actually, that didn't work. So let's not try to do that anymore, which I'm excited to see games pivot from that. But Spider-Man is an example where you think they just have to iterate and refine on it, add some new gadgets. They did add some new stuff, right? They what did Arcane do? All right.
He said he's not lying. He will put you in the dungeon. I've been here perpetually. That was host slander.
That was host. Thank you for sticking up. Are you the only person who has like mod privileges too on my channel? I think you might be.
Let's hope so.
I think you are.
You can't give it to Arcane.
No,
because then
no.
I can't
Arcane
time
never
him
have
out.
it. Well, I think I could make you super mod. I could make him normal mod, so you could still time out the mod.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's acceptable.
Yeah. But I don't think I could trust Arcane with that power on this channel. Not on my channel. But Spider-Man 2, it just didn't work. And so I have a list. I wrote things down.
Oh,
I wrote them on paper.
excellent. Look at this guy coming prepared.
So my first thing that I wrote is it depends on the intention of the first game. So I think to something like a Spider-Man, and most people like Spider-Man for the story. And when Spider-Man 2 comes out and it doesn't have as superior of a story, it doesn't matter what you add. The story needs to outdo the first, which isn't an easy thing to do because the first one was really freaking good.
Correct.
When I look at the examples of Arkham Asylum versus Arkham City, given Arkham City changed a lot more too. You had a bigger world, you had more gadgets, you had more refined combat, you had a better story, in my opinion. You threw in more characters from the Rogue Gallery that people wanted to see, while still being very respectful, which Spider-Man did this too, but while still being very respectful to the source material. And it maintained the things it did well, and then grew on the, but its focus was story, and so it carried over the story. Second thing is, I did touch on here what you talked about, which it depends on the time period and the overall values of the consumer and fan base at that time. So I think something that doesn't get mentioned, or it gets passively mentioned in games a lot, is that our tastes change very quickly. Very quickly.
True.
And I think to the delays in development cycles, where we see it takes like 5 to 6 years for a game to catch up, because development time takes that long. So you start working on a video game now and you say, listen, right now audiences are craving more mature stories. We look at Dragon Age the Veilguard and we go, they don't want that Pixar stuff. We need to get Pixar and Fortnite out of here, push it somewhere else, far away. And so now you start working on a game and you're like, it's going to be gritty, it's going to be hardcore, it's going to be dark. I look at something like, for example, Blood of the Dawnwalker, right? Darker. And then what
wait, to that point, real fast. Sorry, before did you hold your pin on your thing? Like, look at to that point. Excellent point. Look at the last 3 or 4 years of games that have had the Fortnite effect. right? We could call it that. But then look back at the Summer Games Fest show and the Future Games show that was like the day after. And I literally called it. I made a video about the, kind of the top 10s from the Summer Games Fest. And I called it the Dark Fantasy Highlight Show because everything now coming out is dark fantasy. And it started with Elden Ring. Elden Ring was the catalyst really for everybody to go, oh, wait a minute.
We gotta do this.
Really want this stuff. Like there was good stuff, right? But like, and there was always dark fantasy, but it was like, oh no, now it's mainstream. Okay, right? Like, I like dark fantasy much better than the Fortnite effect, but people are gonna get tired of it, just like they're tired of Souls likes, all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
And then it's gonna come back around. So all these studios now, like I start my game now, I go, I maybe I got caught on bad timing. I just released my last game that I've been working on. I turn around and I go, yep, now it's time for me to work on this dark fantasy because people want dark fantasy. In 5 years time when I get the game out, oh shoot, now everybody just wants to play. Now, I don't know. I was gonna say like Western. Now Westerns are cool. Everybody wants to play Western games. Now everyone wants sci-fi games. Now everyone wants, like, co-op is the trend now. Everyone wants co-op, and I'm making a single-player game.
Yeah. There's a lot of games now, too, that I'm seeing. I think it's because of overinflated budgets, right? Lack of money, lack of time, all that stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of PS2-style graphics games coming back, and people still love them, right? Abiotic Factor. Hello. Looks like a PS2 game, but it is fun.
Well, we saw that with Valheim.
And I don't care,
back,
right? Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we're going to see more of that kind of stuff now because the games industry, right, is just needing to pivot that way. Not necessarily that they want to, but I think so.
So the other thing I said was, and the second to last thing I wrote here was that it's also a matter of time, because time apart makes the heart grow fonder. Is that the expression?
Yeah.
So exactly that. And I think a lot too, and this, when I was writing this down, I was thinking of The Witcher 2 to The Witcher 3, which was such I mean, now given The Witcher games 1, 2, and 3 all completely, they feel the same. And it had that linking thread. That is the interesting thing about all the Witcher games. If anybody's ever played through all of them, or at least watched them, tonally, they're all consistent. Every single one. And that tone carries through no matter if you play the first one or the third one. And I have a lot of faith in CD Projekt Red, even if you go out and play the fourth one. It's all tonally the same. But between 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, they had evolved so much technologically that even though they had such radical changes to it, it had been a decent amount of time, fans were excited to hop back into the franchise, and they were able to modernize the mechanics. So yes, it felt like a departure, and it was. Like, Witcher 2 was fantastic, but Witcher 3 was nowhere close in terms of how, like, the combat felt. But they were able to modernize it with the times, and people were accepting of that. It had been long enough where they're like, actually, now I go back and I play The Witcher 2. It felt good at the time, but now it's kind of clunky. So you're able to, because that much time has passed, you're able to change and get away with more change. For example, Doom, the Dark Ages, I think would have gone over a lot better if more time had passed between Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages. Because some people looked at it and they went, I don't really like the style that much. You still would have had that. I'm not saying it would have completely gone away. You still would have had that, but to a lesser extent, because people would have just been so excited to get back into Doom that it's like, this is more Doom. And I would have looked at it and said, why'd they take out glory kills? That's really effing stupid. Most people probably would. But enough time had passed where now I just am excited to get more Doom. So that was another thing that I wrote down. And then the last thing I wrote was, if you're going to change something so drastically, it needs, like, that was the other part, right? How much change is too much change? If you're going to make a lot of change, it needs to exist independently, was my note. So
yeah,
I think too, well, I think too, an example like my go-to is always Darkest Dungeon. The developers made that game, and when they made it, they set out with the intention of, we want you to be able to play Darkest Dungeon 1 and go, that's my favorite. Or go and play Darkest Dungeon 2 and go, that's my favorite. And it's still Darkest Dungeon. It's still horrible and dark, and you die, and everything is horrible and dismal, and there's no hope whatsoever, and you hate yourself for playing it, but you keep playing it, like XCOM. Very much like XCOM.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But that was, they set out with that intention.
I have a different example for you with that. BioShock. We could analyze the BioShock trilogy, where one is absolute perfection in every single way. BioShock is perfection. The first one. Combat's great. Story is jaw-dropping if you've never seen it. You know, all this stuff, right? The world and a heavily political story written very well into a narrative. But then the second one, I would say, is the least favorite. People didn't like it. I liked it a lot because it puts you in a different perspective. Now, you could argue, right? And I think it's fair to call that the weakest of the three. But then the third one comes back, set completely different characters, completely different location, completely different mechanics. Like, everything was different, right? They were very smart and so clever in the way they
most thoughtful pose. You were just like,
oh, I see it now. Yeah. I'm smart. No.
Yes. Please burden me with your knowledge, or unburden yourself with your burden of knowledge.
Yes, let me spew it all out so I can be dumb the rest of the night. It's much more fun that way. So they were really super smart in the way that they tied, though, that whole story back to the original two games, right? They brought it all full circle. So, and a lot of people like 3 the best, which is really rare, I think, right? For the third one to be the best. You're wrong, but I appreciate the idea. It's a fantastic game too, right? But that's just my point, right? Is that, like, yeah, it's all different, but it still has to be tied if you're gonna keep it in that world and in that
a thread.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
And that's really hard to do, right? That's really hard to do.
Yeah. Do it well, at least. It's easy to do, but hard to do well. Ace Ventura's Monkey, welcome. You made it over from the Renegade Run podcast. Thank you for stopping by. Yo, how you doing? Bobby says, damn dirty booker. He also loves playing as a big daddy. I'm assuming you mean IRL.
Yeah.
Any other chats that I missed?
That's what it means.
No, that's what I meant. I know what he meant. Didn't they do a half-ass remake of The Suffering on HD remake or something like that? I don't know The Suffering, so I can't speak to that. Do you know this? No? Okay. Bobby says, Witcher 1 was decent. Combat needs to be done to make it better. Witcher 2 is pretty good, although the endings are a little bit meh. Witcher 3 definitely has a lot of things going with it. Witcher 1 was, I thought, great. I mean, that combat is but even still, I will say about Witcher 1's combat, you get to a point where you kind of get in a flow state. Even at the end, the late game, you're just in a flow state of going through it. But the world and the introduction to the world of The Witcher in that game and the story were absolutely incredible. Who doesn't love going crashes and going, oh yeah!
Kool-Aid Man.
I'm overdue for Crash into a Wall. You can analyze BioShock Trilogy indeed. One simple DLC ruins the entire trilogy. Does it?
I mean, the DLC was kind of what tied it all back together. Really.
Well, it was the
Of
lighthouse.
three. Of three, right?
Yeah.
Well, did you play the DLC where she goes back?
I never played.
I mean,
Burial
I don't
at
want to say
Sea.
anything because people.
I never played.
You didn't
I played
play
through. I loved.
Oh.
I loved. BioShock Infinite, but it is the type of game I will say, like, when I go back to play it, I don't know what it is, but when I go back to play it, I will get consistently to that one house where you get the crow ability, like everything's dark and dismal and black, and it feels a little bit more like classic BioShock. Every single time I get to like roughly around that area, I tap out, and I don't know why. I'm just like I'm bored.
Well, just go play the DLC. You could just load in and play the DLC.
I know, but I really want to play. I just want to experience.
Burial at Sea is pretty controversial. Yeah.
There's so many things about that story that I love, and I saw a clip from it recently of a scene in the game, and I went, I don't remember this at all.
Remember that? Yeah. I haven't played that in like 6 years or something like that. I really want to go back and play that one. Yeah.
Me too. But what is, so I just want to end out here. Don't need to spend too long on it, but what's the worst? Oh, well, you think Doom could have used a Wolfenstein style spin-off in between? No, not a spin-off. I think the id team should have worked on a different IP. Because like the thing about I liken it to Elder Scrolls, because I think about, well, Bethesda worked on Fallout and now they worked on Starfield. All they needed, but like that gap in between, when now it's finally Elder Scrolls' turn again. You didn't need Starfield in the middle there. You could have just had Fallout, but they've always had something. And so now it's finally Elder Scrolls' turn, and that just makes it all the more better. And even if the game isn't like 10 out of 10, it's just you've been excited, you've been waiting, it's your turn to go to the playground finally. And now you're getting your hands on it, and you're like, yes.
I disagree. I think the 3 Dooms, because they had this plan to have different combat, different world, etc. in each 3 of those, I think they needed to come out as a trilogy like they did. But I definitely think the next thing should not be Doom from them. As much as I love Doom and want another Doom, they should do something else. And I also, it's funny that Arcane brought that up, because earlier when you were talking about having that gap, I was thinking Wolfenstein is going to benefit from the fact that indie came out in between, because Wolfenstein is very good, right?
Everyone's looking at machine
and the
games.
Absence, especially because Youngbloods was mixed reviews and not everybody really loved it, right? It's going to be even that much longer in between Wolfensteins, so it'd be good.
What is the most disappointing sequel you've ever played?
That's no question. It's absolutely that piece of trash, The Last of Us 2. It is the most terrible game that's ever been made. I hate that game. With like, I hate that game.
Oh, it's not that bad.
No, it's that bad.
The gameplay is so good.
Terrible. It doesn't matter.
Game, like going
Those
around,
games,
like the combat, the shooting, the melee, and you're you're picking apart all the drawers to find the supplies, and you're scavenging, and it's like,
no, because those games are objectively not about the gameplay. They're about the story, and the story is utter shite.
The gameplay
is
partially about
the gameplay is complementary. It's complementary. The Division is a gameplay game. Visuals and story is secondary complementary. The Last of Us, the series, is objectively a story-based game with complementary combat to advance the story. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. That is not wrong.
I think they can both be right. But I digress. Anyway. I'm trying to think of my worst
And yours
sequel.
is?
I'm trying to think. Because I don't play bad sequels, so. I only play good games.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't know until you know.
I think I would probably say I'm trying to go back and think to my group. Interestingly enough, maybe I don't know if it's the most disappointing sequel of all time, but one that really didn't hit right was Amnesia. They made a machine for pigs after making The Dark Descent. And Amnesia The Dark Descent is one of the best horror games ever made. Period. Like, it's just absolutely fantastic. It's dated now, but for its time, it was absolutely legendary, and it had full mod support. People were making all these custom stories for Amnesia The Dark Descent, and then Machine for Pigs came out, and it was just a massive, utter disappointment. I mean, it was still a good game, but it just did not hold a candle to The Dark Descent in any capacity. So that was a bit unfortunate. I would also say probably Fallout 4, honestly. I think Fallout 4 was a bit of a disappointing sequel.
The worst sequel ever.
No, I'm not saying it's the worst. I don't know what the worst ever. I'm not saying either of these is the worst ever. Neither of these are the worst ever. I'm just talking about disappointing sequels. I think Fallout 4 was a bit disappointing for me.
Disappointing is different, than
disappointing is not the worst. Yeah, no, far from the worst. It was not the worst at all. It was a good sequel, but a disappointing one. I don't know. I can't really, honestly, I genuinely can't think of, and I've been thinking about it all day too. I'm like, what is just a terrible follow-up to a game?
Well, Dragon Age was pretty bad.
Veilguard was a bad one. Yeah, Veilguard would be up as one of the worst. But I haven't played Veilguard, so I can't speak to it, to be honest.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, I thought you did. Okay.
No, it's not one that I've played. I was going to say maybe Crysis, but even Crysis 3 was fantastic.
Well, it's only about a singular one, not like if there was a third that was way better, it doesn't mean that you can't name the second one as just a terrible one, right? Like
Crysis
they're
2
individual
was really good
things.
too. They were all good.
Okay.
I only play good games.
Okay, then why did you bring it up?
The moral of the story, because I was curious.
Why did you even bring
I was
it
curious about yours.
It's so easy. Like, I drink the haterade on that game, like, out in the open. So it's just
only play good games. That's it. I only play good ones. So there you go. Minecraft 2. That's the worst sequel ever. Overwatch 2. I'll give it to Overwatch 2. Terrible sequel. Should never have happened. Because I can't think of anything better. Anyway, that'll do it for tonight's show. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. Crysis 3 storyline ending, though. Boo. I liked the ending of it. I liked all the Crysis games. So you're not going to skew me on those. I just am a sucker for Crysis. I love the formula of it. But that'll be all for tonight. Thank you all so much for hanging out. If you haven't already, check out my last video on Wolfenstein 3. If we're talking about sequels, Wolfenstein 3 is probably getting a sequel, and you should check out why, because I break down all of the reasoning behind it. Super fun. Holly, you've been streaming Tales from the Borderlands, the new Tales from the Borderlands. So
new Tales, yes.
That is super fun. I've been watching. You seem to be enjoying it.
I do, except that at the end of the last chapter, I couldn't do a thing because it said my team had a lack of coordination, but we had literally just gotten the thing that said, oh, now you're a team and you have to count on each other. And I'm like, well, how do you even build the coordination to do this if I didn't really have any options to build coordination before? Like, what? Anyway, it's just
there's a reason people didn't like New Tales from the Borderlands.
But it's an interesting, I mean, I love Telltale games, so I'm willing to give them all a chance.
I'm enjoying your playthrough of it, though. I saw up to the part where you replayed, I think this was the end of your second episode. You replayed it to go save the rat or something.
Yeah, that's the thing I was trying to do. And I was like, I really want to save her. She's a gross, cute little thing, right? And like, you can't, it says you didn't have enough coordination. And I'm like, when was I supposed to build coordination? You just told me we were a team. What?
Speaking of terrible sequels, there you go. The new Tales from the Borderlands. trash.
Borderlands 3 is not great.
But even still, they got the gunplay really.
But it's
like,
not
the
trash.
combat was fun. Yeah, it's not trash.
Yeah.
I only play good games. Anyway, thank you all so much. You can check out that playthrough over on Holly's channel, That Blue Number, which is linked in the description below. Stay tuned. I will be working on a Mass Effect 4 video coming. Hopefully, I'll try to record and edit tomorrow. So please stick around for that. Thank you. Ori 2. Ori 2 is a good example of Influent. Very, very good. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your evening. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
I don't have a hotkey set up, so I gotta find where my thing is. Jonas doesn't come to the streams anymore, so he can't see that I use the ending screen now. So the second he shows up, I'm gonna stop using it just because I don't like him anymore.
Yeah, Jonas has been MIA.
Right. Just kidding. I love Jonas.